We got a 1, a 2, and a 3. Hey now, Metal Mike coming at ya. Shooting a very somber video today. It's a rest in peace, is what it is. And it's for Gilbert Marty. G.C. Marty. Colonel Gilbert Marty. Gilbert Charles Marty is my stepfather. Old auctioneer, that's where the colonel comes in. And I wanted to give a shout out to him because he passed away on the 27th. And what an influence that he had in my life on so many different levels. In 2000, when I had the two kids, when the ex had left me and I was kind of lost as to what I was doing, I was working a part-time job, kind of fell back on what I grew up on, walking the alleys, pulling things out, and I started driving things over to Marty's shop in St. Paul. That's where my stepdad had been based since 1987 on University Avenue. And I said to him, hey, I'd like to quit my job and get into what I'm doing, this junk, and you've been doing it for years. Will you take me under your wing? He allowed me to come into the shop. At first he gave me just a store window and then a basement, and I could have my stuff throughout the store. I spent probably 5-6 years there. He helped me out through hard times when I didn't have enough money to cover my mortgage, or the car broke down, or I was having electrical problems, or I didn't have food for the kids. He was always there for me. Our relationship was always kind of back and forth between my respect for him and his non-respect for me. I'll never know, sadly, if he respected me on any level. I hope he did. But in the end, that doesn't really matter, because even if he didn't have respect for me, I respected him. Why? Number one, the hardest working man I've ever seen, 79 years old, until his final day when they carted him away to the hospital about a month ago. He would go into work and sit there every damn day, all day long. That's what he did prior to that as well, except he worked, he hauled, we worked alongside of each other. I sat many a days, years, standing alongside him. As a young boy, he had a place called Auction City in St. Paul. And when my mom started dating him, I was in the 6th grade. The auctions, I believe, were Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday nights, and we would go there, and it was a giant old grocery store that had been converted to an auction house. There was the not-too-shabby shack in the back where you could get a bite of snack, which I would start working there, selling chili and hustling and making money, standing up in front of the auction house holding the pieces up. Colonel Marty was a master auctioneer, and not your typical auctioneer, not with your 5, 5, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, who give me 15, 15, 15, 15, 15, 20. I got 20, I got 21, I got 21, I got 22. There was none of that. He was all slow with his banter in between, his jokes, his snide remarks, his humor, his description of the item. Real slow. Who give me 5? This is an awesome piece. Now this is back in the 70s, the tail end of the 70s. He got his start in the early 60s in Stillwater, selling cattle and farms. He told me about it. He said they used to sit around the auction house after the auction going, when's it going to dry up? Mind you, this is the 1960s. Years later, what has become popular, like mid-century and all that type of furniture, they used to burn it behind the auction house in a big bonfire because it was considered junk. One of the many stories that he told me over the years. Now, I learned from Marty what not to do, what not to end up like, because there was an anger to him and a harshness, but there also was a kindness and a sweetness, so I also learned that from him. Double-edged, heaven and hell. I learned from him what not to do as a man, and I also learned from him what to do as a man. Those lessons, are going to impact me for years to come. I'm still kind of dealing with his death right now, mentally trying to organize it and file it away, along with all the countless ones that I've lost, but this one was important. Marty was 79 years old, and he was the epitome of hard work, a small shop in St. Paul, dealing with cash in what many would consider the ghetto inner city. He, obviously white, never had a problem with race, and was able to mix with any type of person on any level, from the richest man to the poorest man. He used to tell me, he said, never judge a man on how he looks. And he told me a story about how a man came into the shop one time, raggy, torn pants, but it was a very well-to-do man. Never judge anyone on their look. Countless messages here. I'm shooting from the hip, this eulogy that I'm giving him online for the world to see. Marty, I got my best deals from him, my worst deals from him, lessons learned. Never cry about the thing that got away. Big deal. You move on. It's gone. There'll be another. There always is. He always learned that. I'd come in, I'd say, oh man, I didn't get this piece. And he'd say, big deal. Move on. Another time I had gotten burned on a deal by a senior who had lied to me about an item. It was a reproduction, and I trusted the senior because that's what sometimes you base your decisions on. That's all that you have to rely on, the character of the man. Well, he lied to me, and I went to Marty and I told him the story. And he said, you know what? Get over it. It happens. And he said, you told me the story now, you shared it, never share it again. Never bring it up again. Let it go. He also used to tell me when I first started working there at the shops, I'd be carrying dressers on one shoulder, just busting it, because I only had so much time in the day while the kids were at school, and I felt like I was going to leave it all on the table because I'm tough as nails, I'm a rhinoceros, I'm just a beast, and I was. But he would look at me and shake his head. Slow down, take it easy. Well, years later, after blowing out my calf muscle, throwing out my back, this injury, that injury, those words always resonated with me. So maybe that's a lesson that I can give to you guys out there, my fellow pickers and junkers. Take it easy, man. There's a lot of years ahead of us, and we need to take care of our bodies to get there. Shout out to Gilbert. Shout out. How do I do this properly? Gilbert Marty. As I used to say to him, what's going to happen to the store? Do you want me to do anything for you if something... Cause we would discuss this topic. I would bring it up. If something happens to you, do you want me... He says, what do I care? I'm dead. I'm gone. Yeah, that's true. But, you know, you still can't help but think about it, man. And he passed in a hospital bed 11 a.m. on the 27th. And he's gone now. A force unreckoned with. Him sitting in that junk shop, I can't even picture this world. I've known him since I was 12 years old. He taught me so much about this business, and old school as it can get. The real Sanford and Son, the thing that I always talk about, you know, striving for, getting things for free, paying low end. When I was a kid, after he lost the auction business, he lost everything. We didn't have anything, a pot to piss in, nothing. We would go and load up in the old beat-down Chevy van that he had gotten from his oldest son, Todd. And we would go out on calls. Marty ran an ad in the St. Paul paper, you know, wanted to buy anything. My business card is basically just a copy of his, except with my name in its place. Wanted to buy anything, old tools, antiques, you name it, useful household goods. And we would go on these calls and estate cleanouts, old hardware stores. Oh, I was right in the midst of it. Flea markets, you name it, getting up early and going in the old station wagon. He also would go down to Mason City because he was a colonel auctioneer, and he would teach once a year at the Mason City Auctioneering School. So we'd climb in the old beat-down station wagon that we had that should have never made the trip, and it would be overheating, and we'd pull over the side of the road, and you know, I didn't have much respect for him in my youth because obviously, you know, sure there were fun parts of it, the estate and the junk, but, you know, I was a rambunctious piece of shit kid doing everything bad, and he was my mom's boyfriend coming in and trying to force his agenda on my world. I didn't like it, and sure, he did things wrong, I did things wrong, but I've let all that go. Hopefully he did too before he passed. Yeah. So he's gone, and I just wanted to say something for the record. Me, Mike Lund, growing up with him, man, this mailbox right here, this is from 873 Rice Street. That's where we lived, in an old store. But we would go, let's get back to that, we would go out on these calls in this old van, and I remember one in particular, it just always sticks in my mind. This happened every time we would go. I remember there was an old shotgun, and there was this, so there'd be some cool items. Now, of course, as a young kid, I'd go, oh, look at that, and he would look at me and, you know, never acknowledge anything being cool. Don't get too excited, because they feed off of that. And they'd say, well, what do you want for all this stuff? And the lady would say, oh, I want $100. He'd chew his toothpick, and he'd go, you know what? I'll give you $5. I was so embarrassed. I used to literally turn my back because I couldn't handle the reaction or the feeling I had inside. But they would accept it. He was a great people person. He could sell anybody anything. He could He could buy anything from anyone. He knew just how to do it. He knew how to play his cards, a skill I don't have. It's a natural talent. He had it. He used to say to me all the time, "You're not a people person, Mike. You can't make it in this business." And I'd always come back with, "Well, I'm a people person if I like the person. I don't need their money." So that was the difference between us. He knew how to be a people person with everyone, and I've always been a little bit more secluded. But whatever, that's what made us different. And he taught me so much. He helped me so much. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for him. I wouldn't be doing this video if it wasn't for him. I doubt I would be lost. Who knows where I'd be? Maybe I'd be dead. He saved my life in many ways. And I want to give him respect for that. Here's a picture of him in his shop. I'm going to shoot this here, and hopefully you can see it. Now, I'm sure it's faded because that's just how it works. Marty's secondhand store. This was his shop. He loved it. He was here every single day. And I'm devastated that he's not in this shop anymore. This crushes me. My heart is aching. Here's some pieces that I got from him. He also served in the Navy in the Korean War. So I'm going to show you these pictures here. I've had them just stacked in a corner. This is one of the ships that he served on. The USS Bryce Canyon, AD 36, and those are the medals he received. Here's the one he served on, the USS Strong, DD 758. And these are all the places he visited. He described this as the best time of his life being on this ship here. I remember going over with these, and he also had this one here. He was on the USS Cushing, DD 797. And those are his service ribbons. He described sleep. It was so hot, sleeping on the deck of the ship. Or so cold, you would not believe, just freezing. So Gilbert has passed and left us. But as Einstein said, energy cannot be destroyed, right? It has to go somewhere. So somewhere Gilbert's energy is flowing. Hopefully it came right into my chest, into my heart. For he's there anyway. So, in a last paying respect to Gilbert Marty, thank you, Marty, for all that you gave me, for all that you taught me. You taught me what was wrong and what was right. I learned both things. Like, I will not quit stating it, because there was always that conflict between us. I definitely learned how not to end up, but I also ended up, I took so much from him, both good and bad. I learned from him. Maybe that was his message. Maybe that's what he was trying to teach me. Don't end up like this, end up like this. He had both sides, heaven and hell, like all of us do. But all my respect to you, Marty. My children. I can't thank you enough. I'll never be able to make it up to you. Obviously, you're gone now. Your memory is now only a memory in my heart. But as long as I'm on this earth, and as long as I'm alive, then you're alive. Because I will keep you going through me. Though we weren't blood, what you gave to me, it can't be put into words. So, I'm sorry for this type of message, this rest in peace message, but to Gilbert Marty, I love you, and I miss you, and I'm going to really, really miss coming to see you.